dealing with the pathing nodes. So as you can see, I went ahead and set up all the pathing nodes. And what we've done is we've placed, since we've got two different states for each of the timers here, we've got 4 total timers, right? So we're pathing essentially from node A, this is node A, to node B and back. And I've verified already that pathing works from node A to node B and back in a loop with no timer in the center. So I'm not worried about displaying that state here. On all these states, the NPC listed is going to travel to node A, right? This is node A. They're going to travel to node A, and then whenever they hit node A, the timer is set to start. So as the NPC travels to node A, the timer starts, and we can see that. I'll pull the links up here. Alright, so on NPC arrive, start timer, right? So then when the timer is done, and the timer for all of these is set for 5 seconds, when the timer completes, different things happen for each one. So on this one, when the timer completes, the NPC goes here. On B, it's on timer complete, NPC goes here. Now the difference between these two is that on A, the reset button is not checked, I think. Yeah, no reset timer. And then on B, the reset is checked. And then the same thing here. This one has no reset, and that one has a reset. Now, the difference on these two, as far as the links go, is that the links here are set for when the timer resets, the NPC goes here. So, really, not a single one of these works properly. Okay. And we're going to see that here in just a second whenever we switch on the play mode. Whenever we switch to play mode, and whenever you do this, make sure that you note that the faction should be neutral, because you don't want your NPCs attacking you. So you can see that the only one traveling right now is C, and he shouldn't be traveling because he's supposed to go to node A, pause for 5 seconds, and then travel to node B. But he just keeps going back and forth, and it doesn't matter that there's a pause in there. Everyone else gets to node A and just stops. So it doesn't matter whether the state is set to force a reset or not on the timer object, right? It doesn't matter, apparently. So let's look at how we go about putting one of these issues into the Daybreak bug tracker tool. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be filling out the bug tracker tool with all the information that needs to be in there for this bug. So what we're going to say is project is landmark, issue type is bug. I think that's the only type that you have. You'll fill out, a summary. So just kind of basically state what it is that's going on in as few words as possible, but be as descriptive as possible. Security level, I wouldn't worry about that. Priority, right? Is it a game-breaking feature? In this case, I think it is, because it simply doesn't work at all. Right? So if it's a game-breaking feature, then it's a blocker. I cannot use the feature whatsoever. So, and if you click on the little question mark here, it'll tell you, this is what each of the levels means, right? So you can review that if you need to. And then components, you're just going to add your appropriate components in there, and you can use the drop-down menu that's right here to select components. In this case, they're props, right? That come from the prop palette, so we're going to call them props. And then we're going to choose the version that it affects. So we'll select the live, let's see, live 24 is already selected. So whenever it's, once you've selected one, it comes out of the list. All right. Environment you only need to worry about if you're experiencing things like graphical issues, like something's not displaying properly, then you would want to put your environment in there. Otherwise, it's probably not going to matter all that much. And when you go to do that, you'll probably want to put in like your the model of your graphics card. You may want to include what kind of processor you have. You may want to include what kind of memory you're using. Okay. And then the steps to reproduce. All right, so this is where things start to get a little interesting, right? So we need to be as descriptive as possible about the steps that we are going to go through to reproduce this. And so what I've done is I have noted all of the different parameters that are set here, right? So I stated the case up here at the top. It appears there's no way for the object, for the timer object, to be used so that it functions. And then I've tried each of the following cases, right? So I verified that, in fact, with no timer at all, the pathing nodes do work. So we know that the pathing nodes work. So then the next thing is to verify whether the timer object works, right? So we've set the steady state, or the the baseline. So now we're going to say, all right, what have we done? Okay, so I put all the information in here about each one. For case A, I put in node A, on NPC arrive, start timer, and then that links to the timer object, which is set for 5 seconds with no reset. And when the timer completes, that links to node B, which links back to node A to create a loop, right? So we just did, all of the different states that we tested here. And then down here at the bottom, I said, okay, just as a side note, all the NPCs were set to travel on spawn to node A. So that's how they get to node A to begin with. So then down here, moving down further on the page, we're going to see the actual result, right? So what actually happened whenever you tested it. So here we've got NPC spawns, travels to node A, and stops for each one except for C, travels to node A and ignores the pause and continues to travel. And let's just take this and a little birdie. Okay. So expected result. What is expected? All right, so we can go ahead and copy and paste this, and then we can go up here and look at our states. So what do we expect to happen here? So what we expected to happen here was that when the timer completes, the NPC will travel to node B, right? There is no reset. So what we expected to happen was that they would travel to node A, pause for 5 seconds. When the timer completes, they would travel to node B, and then travel back to node A and back to node B over and over and over with no more pauses. So travels to node A, waits 5 seconds, then travels to node B, and then back to A continuously without further interruption. Okay, so that's what we expected to happen on state A. So what do we expect to happen on state B? On state B, we expected this has a reset, right? So on state B, what we expected to happen was that the NPC would travel to node A, pause for 5 seconds. When the timer completes, travel to node B, and then back to node A, pause for 5 seconds. When the timer completes, back to node B, right? So each time, that's what I expected to happen. What I probably should have expected to happen, though, is that the NPC would travel to node A, and when the timer completes, it resets, and the NPC doesn't do anything. He just stays there because the timer continuously gets reset. So maybe that one's actually functioning properly. But because all the other ones are not, then I would say that's probably not functioning as intended either. So, travels to node A, waits 5 seconds, so how do we want to state that? NPC spawns, travels to node A, waits 5 seconds, timer resets, NPC waits 5 seconds, timer resets, NPC waits 5 seconds, etc. in a loop, in an endless loop. Right, so that's what I would have expected for state B, because we got a timer reset, but we haven't said to do anything when the timer resets. We said to do it when the timer is complete. Now, it's kind of quibbling over semantics, because technically the timer will complete, and so the NPC technically should continue traveling on. However, I think what they have done is they have, by inserting the reset function, they have confused the timer complete and the timer reset. That's what I'm guessing. So let's see. What did we expect on node C? We expected the NPC to travel node A, and then pause for 5 seconds, right? And then there's no reset on this, so the NPC should have traveled to node A, pause for 5 seconds, travel to node B, and then back to A, and back to B, and back to A, and back to B, right? Because there's no reset, and we've set it for when the timer resets. Actually, wait, is that what we expect? What we expect is they travel to node A, pause for 5 seconds, there is no reset, and we've set the timer, we've set the state as when the timer resets. Since there is no timer reset, then there should be no further action by the NPC. So they arrive at node A, wait for 5 seconds, and then just wait longer, right? So NPC spawns, travels to node A. Expected result, yeah. Spawns, travels to node A, and then waits 5 seconds. Actually, waits infinitely. Now, what we really expect is wait 5 seconds. End of loop. Since there is no reset. Alright, so what do we expect for node D? Alright, so whenever they travel, or state, case D. So whenever they travel to node A, they wait for 5 seconds. There is a reset. When the timer resets, they travel to node B. Right, and then back to A. Wait for 5 seconds. There is a reset. When it resets, travel to node B. So, this one to node A. Wait 5 seconds. Travel to node B, and I try to make everything sound the same. So if I write something one way, that way it's consistent. So travel to node A, wait 5 seconds, travel to node B, travel to node B when timer resets, travel back to node A, wait 5 seconds, and repeat continuously. Right. So those were the expected results. Repeatability is 100%. I can do this every time. I can show you these same steps done in this way 100% of the time work. Now I have messed with some other settings, such as simply attaching the timer object to the node, and then but having the nodes connected to each other as well. That doesn't seem to make any difference whatsoever, so I didn't include that in this test. But you can, we can always do another test and then append this with the results of that test as well. So description, including any additional information, might be useful, right? So we could put that information in here as well. It might be useful, but we can also come back and edit this later on if we need to. So let's see, paste the location of the output commanding. That's only if you need, if you're at a specific location that you think might be affecting this. And then attachment. Okay, so when we're done creating this, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and attach this video to this so that the devs can see how to reproduce this. All right. So let's go ahead and all right. So there is our issue. All right. So thanks for watching. Hopefully that helps you make submit some bug reports in the future. Thanks, guys.